What is up, Dirt Trax Nation? Luke here. Just took delivery of our new 2019 Teryx4 EPS LE, and I thought I'd give you guys a little sneak preview of this baby. Jake and I are out here filming the on-cam portion of the test ride right now, so it's kind of a pretty location, different than the usual field that we do these walk-arounds in. I'm actually very impressed with this vehicle. I've always really liked the Teryx. The Teryx4 has always been a really interesting and unique vehicle to me for a number of reasons, but not the least of which, right off the top, is the width. Sorry, the length, not the width, but this is a 4-seat side-by-side that is almost the same length wheelbase-wise as a 2-seat, which means you can still run this thing on any type of trail and not get hung up and not have to do crazy 7, 8, 9, 10-point turns to get around corners. And I think that's one of the most important features of the Teryx4 is that length, that wheelbase. And yet, again, as important as the length for, you know, a recreational side-by-side is the amount of storage, the box size. You can still put a lot of stuff back here for a family of 4 to go out for a day or go camping or whatever. There's lots of room in the box. I do think it's silly that it doesn't have a tailgate. Maybe you don't really need one, but it would make the box that much more usable and that much more, I don't know, that much more functional, I guess. Overall, though, this vehicle is really, it deserves a lot of praise, I think. You know, it's got an 800 class 90-degree V-twin, and anybody who's run a 90-degree V-twin knows they just sound plain amazing. I love 90-degree V-twins, and this one sounds great. The interior is nicely appointed. Dash is nice. It's got lots of little storage compartments in the dash and a decent-sized glove box. I will say that the one thing I'm disappointed with interior-wise is the gauge. For a vehicle of this sort of level, an EPS LE model, you know, that costs this much and looks this nice. Tiny little gauge in there. Has lots of information. It just doesn't look like I think it should look on a vehicle like this. You know, we've got a separate parking brake, which some people love. I don't mind either park-in transmission or separate parking brake, but some people prefer this, and it works really, really well. It also makes the transmission itself a little simpler. There's only 4 options. This transmission is incredibly smooth. It shifts just amazing. One of the best shifting transmissions I've ever had the pleasure of using, actually. I really like the seats in this vehicle as well. As you can see, they're really high back, and they're aggressively bolstered on the back, the seat back, and they're very comfortable. The seating position in the Teryx is interesting. It's laid back in a very sporty feel, but still upright enough that you can get in and out easily, and you can look around and maneuver, and you're not like laid back kart style. But I hadn't tested one of these in a while, and when I got in and felt the seats, I was actually quite surprised, and it brought back a lot of the reasons why I like this vehicle so much. One of the other reasons I like this vehicle so much is because Kawasaki is using their heads here, and they spec the front and rear suspension with Fox Performance Series piggybacks with, I don't even think I've counted yet, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 clicks of compression damping, and obviously adjustable preload on the shocks, threaded adjustable preload. You've got 8 inches of travel up front with double A-arms, and then 8 inches of travel out back with double A-arms. So the travel numbers themselves aren't that impressive, but these shocks, they just do such a good job. They make that travel feel a lot longer than it actually is. And after having spent some time in this thing with my family, there really were no complaints about how it rode or you know, that it didn't have a good enough ride to have your family in there and go out for a day on the trail. So that was really nice, and a nice inclusion by Kawasaki. The other nice thing about it is that while this is the LE model, the base model comes with these shocks as well. So no matter what Teryx4 you buy, you get these shocks. So you're going to be able to provide that really, really good ride for yourself and your passengers, no matter the conditions. The tires on this vehicle, the wheels and tires are really nice. You know, you've got your Bighorn 2.0s, which are a staple tire. They'll do the job. They'll get you where you're going. They're durable enough, and you know, they're a nice looking tire as well. They're on a 14-inch aluminum rim, a nice looking aluminum rim. this is a really nice tire and wheel package. You wouldn't have to add aftermarket tires and wheels on this vehicle because, as you can see, the tires and wheels are already as cool as anything else you're going to buy. I really like the doors on the Teryx. Something that Kawasaki's always done really well with this vehicle is the doors. They function smooth. I like that they don't have an auto close feature, so you can leave it open to get in and out. It doesn't impede your ability to get in and out. The door isn't in where your feet are when you try and swing your legs out the side of the vehicle. There's lots of room, and you know, as much as they open easily, they close just as easily and accurately. The back seat, I think, is an adequate size for a rear seat passenger. I would say that for a vehicle like this, you're probably more likely to have kids back here or younger people versus for full-size adults. This is more of a family vehicle in my opinion, but you can definitely put a full-size adult back here and be completely comfortable. So space-wise in the back, you've really got a lot of room. It works really well that way. Space-wise in the front is crazy. There is so much leg room, both for driver and passenger. I'm 6'1", and I have more than enough room to stretch out in the driver compartment. Tilt steering makes it so I can get this thing set up exactly as I want, and an adjustable driver seat as well. But the space for your feet is just phenomenal, and I really like that about it. This LE package comes with a roof, a full-length roof, which is super nice. Means you don't have to buy one. It's a decent roof with rain gutters front and rear. Nothing wrong with that. Keep you out of the sun, and I think that's a really great inclusion, that anything that says LE or SE or special edition or whatever should have a roof. If it doesn't, they've really missed the mark, and Kawasaki's nailed this one right out of the park. Overall, I'm super happy with this vehicle. This one has a winch that doesn't come standard. That's something that Kawasaki added before we picked it up. The front bush bar is standard though, which is kind of cool looking. I like the orange paint scheme. It's a little more orangey orange in real life than it looks on this video, but it's a nice color, definitely stands out, and people are going to see it coming. You'll never lose your side-by-side in the woods, I guess. The headlights are neat. They're like quad projector beam LED accent. I don't know, there's just a ton of little lights and bulbs in there. You can control the inside and outside lights separately, which is kind of neat, so you can, you know, double your light output at the flick of a switch. Under the hood here, there's not much to see. Got your fuse panel, you got your air filter, you know, just generalized stuff, nothing major, but nice to have easy access. It seems like you could probably put a little storage bin in there if you Kawasaki had something as an accessory, would be kind of cool. But overall, just a really easy access kind of compartment in there, and it fits really well. It's one thing I was very surprised at, is that it fits perfectly and locks down tight every time without any hassles. Low flyby here. One thing I will say that's a little interesting, maybe a bit concerning to people in some cases, is that you can actually not really get to the engine on this vehicle. It is mounted right here between the driver and passenger compartment, and the only way to get at it is to pull off this cover, which looks fairly involved. I'm sure it can be done, you know, with very limited hand tools, but it's going to be an involved process to get in there and get to the engine. If you ever needed to, that could be a problem. Hopefully you won't need to, but if you did, that could be an issue. It also does carry a lot of heat in the driver compartment because you are sitting directly beside the engine. Your arm is resting on top of it, so you know, that's something to consider. It's not a deal breaker in my opinion, but something to consider. Out back, you can see there's no evidence of an engine back there at all. Just a shiftable 4x4 or whatever transaxle back here. That's it. That's all you got. So the engine is somewhere up in there. Good luck getting that guy out. One thing that's interesting about a Kawasaki is it's a CVT transmission, as everybody knows, with a high-low neutral reverse selector, but it has a centrifugal clutch, which means that the belt is always spinning. As soon as you start the vehicle, the clutches are grabbing the belt and it's always spinning. When you give it more gas, the centrifugal clutch picks up and picks the wheels up and connects basically the clutch to the drive axles, the drivetrain. So some people say that's easier on the belt. Some people say it makes for a smoother sort of engagement. I don't know. I don't have a preference either way. They work. People do say that they think that's a more durable system and Yamaha uses a similar system as well. So it's hard to argue with the durability of those vehicles in terms of belt life. So something to consider if that's important to you to have that, then the Kawasaki does have it. An interesting note about this guy, the specs online say that the wheelbase is the same as the 2-seat model. So, you know, my earlier comment about how this thing's maneuverable for a 4-seat, it's the most maneuverable 4-seat. It is, because it's essentially a 2-seat. So yes, you lose the size of the box versus the 2-seat model, but you gain those 2 extra seats, and you don't have a vehicle that's a mile long like so many of the 4-seat side-by-sides are these days. So that's something to think about. That's one of the big reasons, again, as I said, that I love this vehicle. The only vehicle I can think of that's similar is a Honda Pioneer, but it has the convertible rear seats. So technically with the rear seats converted, you have more cargo space, but with the rear seats up, holding 4 passengers, you have less cargo space than in the Teryx. So in terms of a 4-seat short wheelbase side-by-side, this one actually has the most usable storage in 4-seat mode of anything out on the market right now. And again, that's why I recommend it to people when they ask me, you know, what is the best 4-seat side-by-side that's still trailable, that's still maneuverable on really gnarly trails. I always say it's the Teryx4, and that's what they should ride. So aside from the V-twin engine, which sounds really great, and it runs great, it runs perfect, it provides a lot of power down low, but that would be one of the my, I guess, complaints or criticisms about the vehicle, I think, is that it only makes 60 horsepower. And I really think that with other vehicles out there like the General and other vehicles like that putting out 100 horsepower, the Teryx really does need to have more horsepower. Now maybe you don't need it in terms of usability. I mean, the power that this thing puts out is more than usable and is going to get you where you want to go. There's no issues in terms of actual usable power or top speed or torque. But it doesn't have as much as the competition, and when you're spending this kind of money, you don't want to sacrifice that, I think. You want the one that has at least competitive power, and that's something that Kawasaki, I think, needs to address. I think this motor could deal with it, no problem. They could crank out more ponies if they wanted to, so it's not like they have to find a new motor to slap in there. But anyway, this is a walk around. Thought you guys would like to have a look. We are shooting the test ride on this as we speak, and it will be airing in a few weeks, probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 weeks from now. But there's my thoughts on the vehicle up front right now. And I hope you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for more. We're always bringing you great content, and there'll be lots more walk around videos coming this season. So make sure you stay tuned to our channels and our pages. Luke, out.